In this video, I'm going to talk about my final impressions on the Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons expansion, as well as the game as a whole. After that, I'll talk about what we know about what comes next, and the interesting announcement that ArenaNet made regarding the future of the franchise. So, for the last month, I've made it my mission to dive headfirst into Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons, and a big thank you to Guild Wars 2 for sponsoring this video. I tried the low-level base game content, the high-level endgame content, I dove into zones from every expansion, I fell in love with the mounds, and even completed all of the steps necessary to unlock the Griffin. And let me tell you, there were a lot, and I mean a lot of steps needed to unlock the Griffin. You see, the Griffin was a secret flying mount that they added to the game with their Path of Fire expansion, and the devs didn't tell anyone. They told them about all the other mounts they were adding, but they let the community discover the Griffin's existence and how to get it all on their own. They did cleverly hint that the Griffin would be added to the game in this promo image, but no one noticed it until after the fact. Luckily for me, the community figured that all out a while ago, and I was able to get an incredible amount of help from my chat, and especially one of my mods. So big shout out to Mina, thank you so much. And I asked her for a picture of her character that she feels most accurately represents her, and she sent me this picture of her swooning over Joko. Praise Joko. If you know, you know. Alright, now for my final impressions. The base game was fantastic, the zones are beautiful, and most of them held up really well against the test of time. The story was voice acted by an amazing cast, your character not excluded. Yes, all of your character's lines are voice acted as well, which really brings your character's emotions to life. You can hear their sarcasm, or disappointment, or joy in all of their responses, and it really adds a lot. The base game feels a lot like you would expect an action tab target MMO to feel. The combat feels good, and the holy trinity of tank, healer, and DPS is noticeably absent. Instead, everyone is mostly responsible for keeping themselves alive. Players will build in enough healing and damage mitigation to survive the hits that do come their way. As a new player, this complete self-reliance led to a lot of deaths, as I didn't have a tank keeping enemies off of me, and I didn't have a healer focused on keeping me alive when I took aggro. It was a massive learning curve, but not insurmountable. The game also chose to forego a global cooldown system, so you can cast your abilities as fast as you want, as long as you know which ones need to finish their animations before you start casting the next ability. As a new player, this led to me, more often than not, leaving way too much time between my abilities or getting overconfident and clipping them off as they were being casted, resulting in an ability not firing at all. It became important to recognize the spells that could be rapid fired and the ones that needed a moment to breathe. One of the most memorable parts of the game is definitely the jumping puzzles. In Guild Wars 2, you have a phenomenal amount of control over your character while you're in the air. Once you get used to this, it can be used to take on those jump puzzles head first, and oftentimes I did. Sometimes I succeeded and many times I failed, but I always had a good time. All in all, the base game experience was a solid MMO experience, but it was nothing in comparison to the content that would follow it. In its first expansion, Heart of Thorns, Guild Wars 2 added gliding, which opened up a whole new way to design the world and the zones. The verticality jumped straight to 11, and it's something you notice instantly upon unlocking your glider and heading into these areas. For me, it was here that the game went from being just a good semi-tab target, semi-action combat MMORPG to being something truly special. Exploration became twice as fun. I was always looking for the highest place to jump off of and the lowest place to jump down to so I could free fall and then pop open my glider before hitting the ground. The developers expertly designed the zones to take advantage of the glider, hiding rewards all over the zones at any and all levels of verticality. This is when I accepted that every MMO would probably be better with gliders. It's just pure fun, and it opens up a new level of exploration and puzzle solving any and everywhere in the game. Then I got the mounts. I had heard Guild Wars 2 mounts were S tier. I heard that they put all other MMO mounts to shame. I was curious though, I've never really thought anything of it. How good can a mount be? I mean, I've ridden mounts in a dozen MMOs and it always feels the same. I mean, literally, I've never had any discernible difference. Then I got on the mounts in Guild Wars 2. The weight that they carry, the maneuverability, the heft, the sounds and the thuds, the animations as they start, stomp, or jump. It all works together to create a mount experience that is 100 times more immersive. And this is impressive because it could have been so easy to do it wrong. For the realities of having a turning radius to just end up feeling annoying, but they somehow weren't. And I think a large part of why is the fact that, yeah, it's hard to turn a sprinting raptor on a dime, but what it lost in its turning radius, it gained in speed and leaping distance upgrades. Being able to hurl your raptor forward and then being able to hurl it even farther by holding the spacebar down longer. And I think that's the key. Once you're ripping down embankments and you've upgraded your jump ability, not once do you wish you could go back to your old boring MMO mount that can turn on a dime. Then came End of Dragons, and it's doubled down on both of these things. Phoenix, it's got one of the most massive and vertical cities I've ever explored in any game. In fact, I'm going to say it. This was definitely the most massive and most vertical city I've ever explored in a video game. It was huge. I haven't had this much fun exploring a zone, well, possibly ever. I was jumping from high rise to high rise, climbing to the tops of buildings, and then using my glider to jump down to rooftops below. It was fantastic. This is also used in the End of Dragons zones, Echevold Wilds, and Jade Sea. Players that spent time in Echevold Wilds and Guild Wars 1 will definitely see some similarities here, as this was the least changed zone from Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 2. It is massive, twisting, and jaw-dropping as you jump from tree branch to tree branch down to tree roots, and then float over ponds and lakes. If you don't get lost here 100 times, you're a better gamer than me. Then I made it over to the Jade Sea, which also has a lot of areas that are familiar to Guild Wars 1 players. But the most epic part of all was the world events that take place in Dragon's End, where an entire zone of players work together to take down an Elder Dragon. To say that it's tough is an understatement, as it's not uncommon to fail this event, as players are all learning their way around it right now. End of Dragons was a great way to tie together everything that they had added before it: the gliders, the mounts, and now the Siege Turtle 2-seater mount and a skiff. It all came together so well to help you enjoy the fantastically voice acted story that led me from one zone to the next. So what are my final thoughts? Well, the Guild Wars 2 base game is fun, but the Guild Wars 2 expansions are what makes this MMO stand out and what make it unique. If I could change one thing about the game, it would be to add gliders and mounts and verticality to some of the base game zones so that new players got a taste of what I feel makes Guild Wars 2 special well before they hit level 80. It's not that the base game is bad by any means, just that it's such a significant leap for the better once you pop open that glider and ride on one of those mounts. Those are always the first things people talk about when you ask them about Guild Wars 2. I wish they came in sooner for the new players. All in all, Guild Wars 2 is easily one of the most underrated MMOs on the market right now. All three of its major expansions have been home runs, and it's seeing an increase in population to prove it. So what does this mean for the future of Guild Wars 2? Where is the game going from here? There's actually a lot of exciting news on this front, so let's take it one bit at a time. First, and perhaps most importantly, ArenaNet has confirmed that there will be a fourth expansion. For some reason, with this expansion, there was a lot of confusion in the player base that End of Dragons would be the end of Guild Wars 2, as they were wrapping up a lot of loose ends, but ArenaNet says that couldn't be farther from the truth. The game's population has recently doubled from what it was. This expansion is its most successful ever, and it has no intention of stopping now. I think what's interesting about Guild Wars 2's success so far is that it's done it all without something that its competitors have been taking advantage of for a very, very long time. Final Fantasy XIV and Elder Scrolls Online have received a massive influx of players through their exposure that they've received on Steam and on Steam sales. And this is a market Guild Wars 2 has not even tapped into yet. ArenaNet has announced that Guild Wars 2 will be coming to Steam and that it is working on making the new player experience the best that it can possibly be before they do that, because they said in their letter to the community, you only get one Steam launch, and they want it to be perfect. I think this is a great move on their part, and I do wonder how much of the new player experience will change and how much will stay the same, or if the changes that they're making are primarily on the back end. It sounds like we'll find out soon, and when we do, I fully expect a massive new wave of players to try Guild Wars 2 out on Steam and ask everyone, how did I not try this game before? How did I not know it was this good? Why didn't anyone tell me? Guild Wars 2 is a unique gem and a fantastic journey for someone looking for an amazing story to get lost in. And these are my final impressions of Guild Wars 2's End of Dragons expansion and a look into what the future holds for the game. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more MMO content than you can shake a stick at. Thank you so much to all of my YouTube members for subscribing to the channel and helping keep this channel going. For more information on how to become a member, check out the link in the description below. If you ever want to hang out with someone else who loves MMOs, swing by my Twitch stream over at twitch.tv/luckyghost. If you want to try out Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons or play the first 80 levels for free, be sure to check out the link down in the description below.